Hey, is anyone on?
Good, thanks. What's that? Perfect. You're good to go.
Thank you.
Is your audio?
How does it get on though? How does it,
You are actually good to go.
but there's not.
It's just that there's somebody else listed as the speaker right now, but you are indeed the speaker.
Okay. We're just waiting for our presenters today, Saul Ramos and Joseph Amato. Thank you for those of you already on the line. We'll get started in a moment.
Hey, good morning, Ann. Just
Good
checking on
morning.
Joe and we'll be right back.
Okay, thank you, Saul. We have a number of people who are going to be joining us, so we're just waiting for them to get on at about 11.
Your phone ringer turns down.
Good idea. Hi, Joe, I see you. Thank you for joining us. We're waiting just a few minutes for a few more participants.
Okay, I'm here.
Terrific, glad to see you. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Sorry, I was on another conference call.
That's all right. I'm just waiting probably 2 more minutes to get a few more participants.
Okay.
I know you and Saul are busy with conversations all over Nevada.
All over the country.
All over the country. All right. Well, I appreciate
No problem.
you making time for the Reno+Sparks Chamber of Commerce this morning.
Absolutely no problem.
I'm just waiting 1 more minute to start exactly at 11.
That's okay.
All right, it's exactly 11 o'clock, and since these sessions are 30 minutes, I'm going to get started. I want to welcome Joe Amato, who's the District Director of the Small Business Administration here in Nevada, and Saul Ramos, the Deputy District Director. We're thrilled to have both of you gentlemen on the line. Obviously, this second round of PPP is so important to small businesses, and 75% of our 2,000 members are small businesses. So I don't want to take up any time. I'd rather turn it over to both of you to give as much information you can on the first and second draw of this additional round of PPP funding. So Saul and Joe, I turn it over to both of you.
Okay, well, thank you. Hi, Saul. Nice seeing you again. Definitely want to go through this since we have a half hour and leave some time for questions. Want to go through this as quickly as possible with as much information as possible. Where we're at right now is Congress has approved PPP2 and the reinstatement of PPP1, which basically ended on August 8th of 2020. With that in place, people that did not get first draw PPP are now eligible to get first draw PPP under the first draw PPP rules. And those who have not have received PPP first draw are now eligible to get second PPP draw under certain criteria and eligibility standards, which I'll go over today. Currently, right now, what is happening is we're rolling out. We began on January 11th to start taking PPP1 applications. And as of today, and on Friday, there were some banks that were $1 billion and under that were starting to take both PPP first and second draw applications. And as of today, PPP's first and second draw will be open to all lenders. The deadline for PPP first or second draw is March 31st. So you have to be very careful. People have asked me when it's going to end. I think the money will end out before then, unless Congress appropriates more money. But I think that probably it's going to take about 2-3 weeks, which is far short of the March 31st deadline for PPP first and second draw to be used. Those who basically did not get first draw and they're eligible applicants that can receive first draw that could have received it prior to August the 8th, but did not receive it are now eligible basically to receive PP first draw. And there is also one of the things that has changed with PPP first draw is that some of the initial expenses were for payroll and for mostly occupancy related expenses. Now it's covering payroll, occupancy, anything you might have done for PPE mitigation, whether it's build plastic walls or get gloves and masks and disinfectant and so on and so forth. Any damage that might have been done to your facility during the summer months because of some of the things that went on during the summer months in certain cities, that's now eligible. Supplier costs are eligible, and most operating expenses are eligible. So almost everything a business spends money on under PPP first draw and second draw will now be eligible. The bar still has to proceed with either selecting an 8-week payout process or 24-week payout process, just as before with PPP1. And certain borrowers that were shortchanged in PPP first draw that for some reason after the fact realized they should have got X when they got Y are now eligible to basically get that increase under certain circumstances. Again, everybody must apply before March 31st for PPP first draw or until the congressional appropriation expires. The things that the new eligible groups that are under PPP first draw that were not in PPP, that were not originally, are housing cooperatives, destination marketing organizations, and eligible news organizations. That's something new. And now reinstated, 501c6s can now be eligible. They were eligible late in the PPP first draw process. They're again eligible. Still eligible is all business entities, also proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed, nonprofits, 501c3s, 501c19s, which are obviously veteran organizations, and any type of tribal business is all eligible. So that's basically the overall review of PPP first draw. Now, what is the second draw? The second draw basically has some limitations on it that PPP first draw didn't. Remember, in PPP first draw, you could get up to $10 million per business, up to $20 million in aggregate. Now under PPP, you can only get $2 million maximum per business and up to a $4 million aggregate. So that is a very, very big thing. For most borrowers, the maximum loan amount for PPP second draw is going to be 2.5 times the monthly 2019 or 2020 payroll costs, up to $2 million. And for borrowers in the hotel business, accommodations, food services, anyone with a NAICE code that begins with 72, the maximum loan amount for second draw is 3.5 times monthly average 2019 or 2020 payroll costs. If you went to your initial bank and received the PPP first draw, in most cases, the bank can use that original PPP documentation, payroll documentation, to get PPP second draw. In some cases, you'll get the exact same money. In some cases, you'll get more money because it's 3.5 times if you're in the hotel or food service business. Then the PPP second draw has a different application. The application for first draw is the 2483. The second draw application is the 2483 SD for second draw. The other thing that's real important is eligibility. So in order to be eligible for second draw, things have changed. In order to be eligible for second draw, you have to have had a first draw. You had to have a PPP first draw. Nobody can come in and get a second draw right off the bat. Secondly, you can't have more than 300 employees this time. First draw was 500 employees. Now they're sort of micro-speccing down to 300 employees as opposed to 5. And the most important eligibility thing is that you must evidence in 1 quarter of 2020 a 25% or greater decrease in revenue over the same identical quarter in 2019. Let me repeat. You must select a quarter in 2020, 1 quarter, 3 months in 2020, and that quarter must evidence a 25% or greater loss in revenue year over year with 2019. Now, the biggest caveat is if you're not in business in 2019, but you started your business before 2/15/20, which was the start date for PPP first draw. So if you started a business in January or late January, early February, you can take the first quarter of 2020, which a lot of businesses were doing really well, and you can compare that to the second, third, or fourth quarter of 2020. And in any one of those subsequent quarters, second, third, or fourth, if you had a 25% or greater loss in revenue compared to the first quarter of 2020, you would then be eligible. I know it's like a Chinese fire drill, but it really does make sense when you think about it. Okay. So also with PPP loan forgiveness, there's some other changes that have come into play. Borrower must again apply for loan forgiveness through their lender, and then the lender submits borrower forgiveness decisions to the SBA. Okay, same as last time. But there's updates. Your idle advances are no longer involved in anything to do with PPP second draw forgiveness. Nothing to do with it. And they have changed the IRS rule. Forgiven PPP loans are not taxable income. Expenses paid with PPP loans are now tax deductible. And you need to consult the IRS if you have any questions. There was some issues with PPP one forgiveness that the IRS was saying that if you had a PPP forgiven loan, it becomes a grant and the expenses associated with that grant were not tax deductible. There is legislation now in hand that basically will change that. And then again, there's expanded forgivable expenses, which are permissible for any PPP loan not already forgiven. So as I said, it's an expanded list I went over to earlier. And then they're going to expand also on anyone that received under $150,000 will be automatically forgiven with a very simple PPP forgiveness, second draw forgiveness loan process. So I think that's the mountain of it. Saul, did I forget anything? Can you think of anything on top of it?
I think you covered everything, Joe. I mean, there's the other programs that are rolling out, the Shutter Venue Operators Grant Program, and that's for the live venue operators, the theatrical producers, live performing. And one caveat is that if they do apply for that one, they cannot apply for the PPP.
Yes, you cannot have what they call an SOS, the Save Our Stages bill that went through Congress. It basically allows a venue that is involved in either line of entertainment, operators, promoters, theatrical producers, live performing art organizations, relevant museum operators, zoos, aquariums, motion picture theater operators, talent reps, and any other business that is in basically the theater or live entertainment industry are eligible for PPP, or not, sorry, for SOS. Now, again, like Saul said, if you get SOS, you can't get PPP. I mean, too many nomenclatures, but that's the way it is. I think that is it for right now. What we're finding is independent contractors still use your 1099 in most cases. If you supply a 1099 to your bank, you do not have to apply your Schedule C anymore. Just supply your 1099 and you will basically be paid off of, they'll take the 1099 in box 7 divided by 12 times 2.5, unless you are in the food service business, and then it'd be times 3.5, and that's how you get your, the max amount you can get as an individual is $20,833. Again, for any payroll, for annual payroll, use your 940. You can use your 940 again for 2019, or you can use your 4941s for 2020 if for some reason you get a higher payroll number that way.
Wow, that was a quick summary. Can I start taking some questions?
Absolutely.
Ann Quinn, I know you had a question regarding the 25% reduction in revenue 2019 versus 2020. Do you want to go ahead and ask that question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for your time. So my question is specifically around the 25% revenue loss criteria. So we didn't have a calendar quarter like a January, February, March, for example, with the 25% loss, but we did have a 3-month consecutive period,
No.
which was March, April, and May. So
No,
are
we
we
didn't.
still eligible?
No, it's got to be calendar. You have your 4
Has to be
calendars, you
calendar.
have your 4 quadrants. That's it. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Joe and Saul, this is Ann. I have another question. If you could go over again the fact that if you didn't apply for PPP1, you can apply for 2, but you also mentioned that you needed to have applied for 1 to get
No,
it.
you
Can you
have
go
to,
over that
in
again?
order to get 2, you have to have applied and received 1. If you did not receive 1, you could still go ahead and receive 1 now.
Okay.
I think it's almost impossible to do 1 and 2 like consecutively because there's an 8 to 24 week period. You have to disperse the money. So if you did not receive 1, you're eligible to receive 1 now. If you did not receive, and if you did receive 1, you're eligible to receive 2 now.
If you were denied in round 1, can you try again through round 2?
I believe you can try. And again, it depends on why you were denied for round 1. Sometimes it was a bank error that you were denied. I would say in most cases, if you're denied in round 1, you probably could be denied for PPP1 in round 2. But I mean, it's worth a try, and it's definitely worth a try with another lender, especially if you corrected whatever situation the lender said you were in.
And for 501(c)(6)s that were not originally eligible, you could be eligible now.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't have to show that you applied in round 1. but
Oh,
you
yes,
can-
you still do. To apply for PPP2, if you are a C6 and did not receive in round 1, you still have to go back and receive in round 1. You're
Okay.
not eligible for 2.
Thank you. Are there other questions? I have a few more, but I want to get to anyone else on the call who may have a question. If you do, please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask.
Yes. Hi, Ann. This is Jenny Sarton at the Pahrump Valley Chamber of Commerce. Thank
Hi,
you,
Jenny.
Joe, for chatting with us and for including us. I received a notification this morning from our lender at Nevada State Bank saying that they received a notification from the SBA letting them know there was going to be a delay in processing the funds because they were additional checks the SBA intended to conduct. How long a delay are we looking at?
That's the point I forgot to make. Saul, you had to remind me next time. Okay, last time with PPP1, what was happening was the banks were getting the application. They were submitting through a system called E-Tran. The minute they submitted into E-Tran, they were getting automatically the SBA loan number, and they could fund immediately after that. The way they've done it this time is actually instead of using E-Tran as the SBA sort of foundation system, they purchased an API. I don't even know what API means, but it's a software program system that basically is processing all the PPP loans. What happens now is the bank is going to put it into the SBA or the API portal. The SBA is telling us they have somewhere between 1 to 3 days to review every application in that portal. And after that 1 to 3 days, the bank will get their bank application number or their approval number, and then the bank will fund. So what I think is going to happen now is normally it was taking several days to get the application ready. The bank submitted, they got the number, they funded in 3 to 5 days. Most banks did. What's going to happen now, I think, is going to take a couple of days for the bank to get the information. They're going to submit it to the SBA. It's going to take the SBA a couple of days to process and provide an approval number. And then it's going to take a couple of days for the banks to fund. So I think what was maybe a 3 to 5 day process the first time could be somewhere between a 5 to a 9 day process this time. So Jenny, thank you for that question. You reminded me what I forgot.
I'm good at that. Thank you.
Okay.
Joe, I have a question. Is it required that a business use the same lender for the second draw as it may have for the first?
Absolutely not. It may be easier to do it in some cases, but if you had a very unpleasant experience with the first draw, the first lender the first time, which many people did, it's definitely, the door's wide open to use any other lender.
Okay.
That's taking them. Like I just heard the other day, I don't know if it's a rumor that some of the big banks are only taking up to $150,000 PPP loans.
I heard that as well.
And that obviously is going to curtail a lot of people that can get larger loans to have to go elsewhere.
Okay. Are there other questions? If so, please unmute yourself and go ahead and ask Joe. Regina.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
unmute. Yeah.
My question, Anne, was the, oops, sorry, I'm doing two things at once. My question regarding the EIDL grant. I initially applied for the $10,000 EIDL grant, and then that was reduced in the first stimulus bill to a $1,000 grant. And then from some of the communications from Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, I understood that we were then going to be able to apply again, or our applications might still be active to get the additional 9,000. I wanted
Yes.
to know, is that accurate, and how
That
would I
is-
go about getting
that
those
is
additional
accurate.
funds?
That is accurate. I'm not sure when it's going to happen. That is accurate. Legislation went through that all people that were shortchanged of the automatic 10,000 they should have received, they were supposed to receive the difference. In your case, it would be $9,000. I know the funding's in the new bill, the congressional bill that was passed to do it. I'm just not sure. Obviously, right now, everybody has to be sensitive to the fact that we're changing administrations. There's a new SBA head. There's new SBA rank and file. All the political people are being replaced as of tomorrow. So, there's going to be a little bit of lag time with some of this stuff because of the fact that, things are changing with the administrations. So I know that it's been approved. I know that it's supposed to be put in place. I think they're leaving it up to the new administration to actually implement it.
Okay, so we wouldn't do anything for reapplying. We should just
No.
kind of sit tight.
At this point, I don't think so. I think at this point, my understanding is checks are supposed to go out. That's all I know.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Hey, Joe, and just to add to that, I know we're talking about the EIDL advance, but for those that are not aware, the economic injury disaster loan, that one remains open until December 31st. So that's the
Very good.
30-year
Thank
loan
you.
at 3.75. So that one still remains open until the end of the year.
This year, 2021.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's great information. Thank you. Karen, I think you had a question.
I do. So forgive me if I missed this in the very beginning. I'm driving, so I was just trying to hop on. But I got my first round of PPP through Wells Fargo. The experience was whatever it was, but the forgiveness process has been a little crazy because they're insisting that I have to apply for forgiveness through their online portal, but they'll send me the link for it. So I'm still waiting for that. Can I still apply for the second round, or do I need to wait to see what happens with the forgiveness? I mean, I know I'll be forgiven. It's just I have to wait for Wells Fargo to give me a link for their online portal first. So I'm kind of in limbo on forgiveness.
Great question. No, you do not have to be. One of the eligibility rules weren't in my printout, which we have to add. So, is that in order to be eligible for PPP2, you either have to have used or, listen to me, intend to use the funds in PPP1. So you may not have used them yet, but you have to intend to use them in order to be eligible for PPP2. I just talked to somebody from Northern Nevada the other day. They hadn't used their PPP1 funds yet. They're eligible to get PPP2 because I said, are you intending on using the PPP1 funds? And they said, yes. Said, then you're eligible. So as far as the forgiveness process is, I mean, it's going to basically be the same for both sides. But you do not have to have applied for forgiveness first in order to get the PPP2 loan. You can still be pre-forgiveness. You could be forgiveness in process. You could be almost forgiven. You can apply and still get PPP2.
Forgive me. All right. Jenny, you have a follow-up question.
Yes, actually, I just wrote it in the chat section. If you receive the EIDL, but we're not amongst the lucky ones to get the $10,000, are you saying that we may now possibly receive that without doing anything?
You supposedly, I don't know how they implement. The legislation says you're supposed to get the difference of what you didn't get if you were eligible for the 10,000.
Okay.
How they're going to do that right now, I have no idea.
Okay.
And they haven't shared with us where I guess the new administration is going to figure out that plan.
Okay, and then also, is there any discussion or further discussion with regards to the EIDL being forgivable?
There is no discussion on that whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Anyone who wishes to unmute and ask a question?
Hey, Ann, this is Mike Hicks. Can I
Yes,
ask?
Mike.
I should know the answer. Joe, really appreciate you spending your time, and Saul, good hearing from you too. The question that I have is, and I kind of was just running it through our PPP group, but just for clarification and definition. So businesses that did not apply the first time, they do get a chance to apply, as you mentioned, either because their status changed or they want to take advantage of the allowability of applying for the first time. Do they also need to show a 25% reduction?
No, not for PPP1, no.
So it's only the group that's applying for the second time that need to show the 25% reduction in the calendar quarter. I like the way you referred that.
Yes, calendar quarter.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
And this is Elizabeth from the Northern Nevada SBA office. I just want to add real quick for everyone that has these questions about the EIDL advance and the changes that'll be coming with that. You can go to the SBA website. It's www.sba.gov/updates. And you can sign up for the emails that get sent out from the Nevada District Office. And when we have that information, emails will go out to provide that information to the public. So you can get on there and sign up for those updates and you'll get everything that's coming.
Terrific. Thank you, Elizabeth. That's great to know. As much information as our members can get, the better. Joe and Saul, I have a question. What changes are you anticipating with the change in SBA administration? Any that we should think about?
No comment.
Okay.
We don't know. I mean, they've appointed a new administrator, Ms. Guzman, out of California. And we're, a lot of it's going to be her dictate based on what the new administration wants. The district directors all remain intact. The regional directors, our bosses, are all being replaced. So we're really not sure. We're going to see what happens in the next 2-3 months, and we'll know when we know, and we'll share what we have to share if we have to share anything. So I just don't know. This is my first rodeo on an administration change.
Okay.
So Saul might be more astute to it, but I sure as heck have no idea, and I'm just waiting for whatever they tell us to do, we're going to do.
It's my first rodeo on the change too. The only thing, Joe, that might and I'm not sure if this is out already, is the debt relief. I know they were talking about doing that again with paying the principal and interest. I know that was on legislation, and potentially a 90% guarantee as well. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
there's a 90, that's on the 7A loan program, which has nothing to do with PPP and EIDL, but yeah, on the 7A loan program, they're going to increase the guarantee to 90% as opposed to 75. And they're also going to waive the guarantee fee as well as the processing fee for an interim period of time. So yeah, it's a real big thing for lenders that want to still do other lending beside PPP and obviously EIDL is not for the banks.
Let me ask Joe, you and Saul, the same question a different way. Under the incoming Biden administration, there is talk of additional funding for small businesses, another round of massive relief. Do you see that getting through?
We know that there's an enormous amount of money that's still on the table that from this $1.9 trillion package that Biden's talking about. We understand there may be more PPP funding in there because I think there's only 300-something billion this time around. Last time, remember, we did 300-something billion and we had another 300-something billion. So again, at the end of the day, I think we ended up doing like 554 billion across the country. So I would think that with some of the restrictions, some of the companies won't be eligible. There's actually companies that did well during this time and won't meet the criteria. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Okay. Any other questions from people on the line? I don't want to miss anybody's question. If you want to unmute and ask Joe or Saul.
Yeah, you get our names confused, right?
I know. It's just better call Saul.
That's what
we really appreciate you getting on the line. I know you went quickly through this, but I want to ask our listeners if there's anything that Joe said too quickly, and you may want to have him repeat again. All right. Well, if not, yes, please.
As we wait, this is just a quick little reminder. As Beth mentioned, we have the newsletter. If you have a question after this, the team is holding question and answer sessions on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. and on Thursdays at 2 p.m. So feel free to reach out to us. You may do it through that channel or reaching out to the Nevada mailbox, which is N as in Nancy, V as in Victor, D as in Dog, O as in Oscar, nvdo@sba.gov. You're more than welcome to reach out to us in those channels as well, or via phone, 702-388-6611, 702-388-6611, or reach out to us directly, either Joe or myself.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that information, Saul. We have made sure that our members understand those conversations are occurring every Wednesday and Thursday. And that's a great asset for our members to be able to get online, get on these conference calls and ask any questions they may have. I want to thank you both for jumping on so promptly at 11, and for our listeners. Saul, you always run things very quickly, and Joe, you managed to get a lot of information across in just a few minutes. If there aren't any last minute questions, the Reno+Sparks Chamber will continue to promote information to its members to make sure they're adequately informed about this second round of PPP, the eligibility criteria, the 25% reduction in revenue over any quarter versus calendar quarter in 19 versus 20. And we can't thank you enough for always being available to talk to our members. Thank you both, and thank you everybody who listened.
It's absolutely our pleasure. Obviously, we're here to serve. Going around, we never thought we'd have to do this another time. And it is in some ways disheartening, in some ways fulfilling, because obviously PPP1, EIDL made the difference for a lot of companies. They're still struggling. Nobody knew it would last this long. Hopefully some of the restrictions will begin to grow, but we shall see. We shall see. I'm really excited to see what the possibilities are.
Well, thank you again. And thanks to everybody who was on the line. We'll continue to call on Saul and Joe as either confusion arises or things get more simplified and we just need a quick update. So thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate your time, your professionalism, and all the information you have. Thanks, everybody. Be well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Have a good day.
Okay. Thank you.